Okay, Brian Davis races, and you can too. We are in Waukesha, otherwise known as Waukesha, Wisconsin. Super excited to go racing today. It's gonna be gorgeous. Thought it might rain, but it looks like it's gonna hold off. We are here with friend of the show, Brent Williams. Still not quite sure what category we're gonna do today. It's gonna be a cliffhanger. We'll find out when we start the race. And then Andy Webb, who got second yesterday. Where are you overall now for this category? Second overall in the points competition for the overall Cat 2-3 category. Awesome. If I am not a bag of poop, maybe I can support him a little bit today in the race. Otherwise, I'll just hang out in the back and be a bag of poop.
I welcome that.
All right, bag of poop.
Both of them are cool.
And Adam is doing his first toad race ever today. Hi, Adam.
Hello.
Good luck today, man.
Thank you.
I hope you win some money and have some fun
That'd be nice.
and keep your skin.
All of those are good objectives.
All those are good objectives. So the drive is done. The bike is ready. Let's go race. Let's go racing. Brian Davis races, and you can too. Interesting race today. If you remember, like 10 seconds ago in the intro, I said, looks like it's going to be a beautiful day, and I was wrong. So this little storm cell came through right before we started racing, and it was still raining into our race. So just to catch everyone up, this is the Masters 2-3 category at the 2019 Tour of America's Dairyland. All right, so this first lap, there will be a crash coming up shortly. So it was very scary for me. I had my tire pressure too high. I have decided that I will listen to my friend Brent and I will lower my tire pressure. I got one warm-up lap and realized every turn had manhole covers. All right, here comes the crash. Rider on the left, far left, right there. Boop, goes down. So that was Steve. I don't think he came back into the race. Hope he's okay. And the race carries on. But that definitely got my attention. And that was an outcome that I did not want to have happen to me. So you can see after that immediately, for no other reason than mental weakness, I guess, for lack of a better term, or maybe I'll just call it intelligence. So I let probably 15 riders get in front of me at that point. And that took a huge mental toll on my desire to want to race this race. So if you recall, my goal this week is to get some warm-up in these 2-3 races and then get into the 40-plus category. I found the reason I'm doing that is I found in last few years of doing this these races, this series of races, that I actually get better as the week goes on. So my plan was to do a few of these throwaway races in the beginning of the week, although I will admit it is very difficult to mentally tell yourself that these are throwaway races and not get into the moment. And I should get into the moment, and I am disappointed that I'm not competing better in this level, but c'est la vie. Okay, so lap 2, very sketched out, lots of paint as you can see on this course, and I have had history on this course. So there is a pretty well-known video of me racing on this course with a camera, one of my first recorded races, and a spectator on a bicycle came across our race. Actually, it was at that intersection that we just went through, except at that year's course we were going straight through that intersection instead of turning. And he rolled out from the sidewalk perpendicular to the race and imploded the field. And it was actually my camera, my bike, and my body that speared him first. and then there was a spattering of bodies all over the road. And one of those riders got hurt really badly. But anyway, that was a few years ago. So this course is a really fun course. I like this downtown in Waukesha. I think it's really cool. So yeah, I'm happy to race here. It's a cool course. It's well supported. It's a neat vibe that they put on downtown. I think it's almost always Sunday. So it starts off slow in the day, but then I was just watching Facebook Live, and the pro race that was taking place this evening looked like it was jam-packed. So that's awesome. People come out to watch the fast folks, have a beer in the evening, and that is lovely, lovely. So that is absolutely how bike racing should be. All right, so back to this race. Now I am going to be switching cameras. So the entirety of this video, you're going to watch me implode eventually, and then I'm going to switch to Brent's bike. Brent had a GoPro on his bike. He does not have a rear camera. I was able to give overlays to Brent's video, although they are not they're not on point. because GoPro and Garmin are not friends. So it's difficult to get GoPro footage to line up with Garmin. Yeah, it's difficult. So there goes Brent. He came up the field and was encouraging me. So you may remember that I let like a crap ton of people go by me, and then Brent, I thought for sure was way up in the front, and then he came by me and said, "Oh, keep going." And I'm like, "Why are you way back here?" But you will see Brent. He's able to move from way back here all the way up to the front with relative ease. So it's impressive how fit he is this year. And yeah, so my race comes down to having these. It's pretty much just this. So after I mentally sort of let go of the wheel, then at a few minutes into this race, I kind of got my act back together, and I thought, if you can just hang on till like 12 minutes or 13 minutes into this race, there's a really good chance that the field will slow down. Because I was thinking, like at some point, this group, they are just flying. Someone's got to slow down here. That came later than I had hoped. So there was not a lot of slowdown in this group, and I was not alone. So eventually, you will see in a few minutes, I do get pulled from the race, but there were plenty of people that did as well. So I was not actually the last placed rider, but pretty near, but not quite last. So there were a few DNFs, which I don't know if people even showed up to the start line or if they pulled out after lap one. I think there was more than one crash. Well, there was definitely more than one crash throughout the day, but I think there was more than one crash in lap one, perhaps. But maybe that happened behind me. And then my teammate, who you saw in the intro, Andy, who is currently going into this race, was second overall for the overall point standing, got second yesterday. He was taken out by a crash later in this race as well. So interesting. I have not watched Brent's footage. That will be coming up. We'll switch to it about halfway through this video. So that'll be the first time I watch it. I'll be commenting on it right along with you. So I'll just give you my overall thoughts. So this is a gap. Okay, I remember this. This is a gap I closed, and there was my peak power for the day, 1,200 watts. So I closed this gap, and this was great that I closed it. That was good. That was a positive for the day. But you'll see what happens here. I just sort of, again, mentally let go. And I think, on the car ride home, I was talking to the guys in the car. We've developed a little tradition in our carpool to try to come up with 3 positives from the day. After the race. So I like that because bike racing is exceedingly negative feedback. Unless you win the race, it's hard to be 100% positive about your day, and there's only one person who's 100% positive about their day, typically in a bike race. So coming up with some positives to take away from the day, whether that's learning opportunities or performances that you were happy about. So this was one of mine, bridging up to this gap. I felt good about that. I was able to get this group eventually. I closed this last 5 feet. And then you can see behind me, it's no man's land. I'm the last one. Now, this is the part where I get a little frustrated with myself because these rims, not to blame equipment, but these rims are awful in the rain. And I was going to switch rims. It was dry during warm-up, and this rain literally started 10 minutes before the race, maybe 15 minutes before the race. So I was already on my way over to the start-finish when it started raining. Parked myself and my bike under a tent to stay dry, and then rolled out onto start-finish line. So you can see I catch this group, and then there's a gap. I think you're going to see a gap ahead of this group, and I did not have enough get up and go to close the next gap. And then that, again, mentally, sorry to keep saying that, but again, mentally, I kind of let go of it because I'm like, maybe you should just pack it in and keep your skin. But at the same time, I kept thinking, I know this is going to pass, this little rainstorm, because I checked the radar. I know it's going to pass. It's very small. These roads are going to dry up super quick with a pace car, a motorcycle, and 60 guys out on a course with bikes. The racing line, at least, is definitely going to start to dry up. So just stick with it. Stick with it. Sadly, I did not do that, but oh well. I will say this. I got out there and tried. So that's a positive. When it started racing, I thought I could just go back to the car and change clothes and cheer for the other 2 teammates who are more interested in results in this 2-3 category. But I didn't. I wanted to start the race and see how I go. And yeah, so there's that. All right. And so here you're seeing me, I think I threw in the towel here, and then, oh, I bet this is when I looked down at the clock and I thought, well, if I could just hang on a few more minutes. That's super frustrating to watch on video. Oh gosh, that's frustrating to watch on video. I know this group eventually gets pulled just like I got pulled, but still, it's a long drive to do 15 minutes of bike racing. But that's how life goes, so I'm not going to beat myself up about that. That's just what happens. Yeah. So, yep. So I'm going to dangle here, and then I decide, I think, yep, this is about where I decide. I'm like, well, just kind of go into time trial mode, get some training out of the day. Now that I'm all by myself, I don't have to stress out about corners, either messing somebody up behind me or worrying about somebody in front of me. I was so cautious on these turns. Sorry, my computer just froze up. So. Okay, sorry, computer back up and running. Anyway, I was so cautious on these turns because of the paint, the manhole covers, and my over-pumped tires that it made me really nervous. So I was more worried about people behind me because I was taking these really loopy lines through these corners because I was so freaked out about where I was supposed to be. Yeah. So speaking of the turns, so eventually I got comfortable with the rain. The rain, I think you can see it now, it's stopped raining. I think it stopped raining. It's hard to tell from the rear camera because it sprayed. Yeah, it stopped raining, and it's starting to actually, I wouldn't call it drying up yet, but it does eventually dry up. Now, eventually I learned you don't actually need brakes on any of these turns, especially if you're by yourself, at least at the slow, pokey speed I was going. But it took me a long time to convince myself of that. Yep. I don't know why I don't. If I decide to keep racing, why am I not grabbing somebody's wheel and trying to stick with the group? So frustrating to watch this. So, all right, let's get some lesson other than me just whining about my race. So some lesson. So after I got pulled, I sat on the sidewalk right there at that cafe, and I had a little minute or two to think about choices, right? So when you get a poor performance, this happened a number of years ago at a toad race. I got dropped from a toad race that I thought I would do okay at, and I had a lot of time for personal reflection. And it's very motivating, to me at least, to go through these moments where I really want more out of bike racing than getting popped in the first 15 minutes. Now, this is a competitive category. I will say that. These guys are definitely fast. So, but I feel like I put in the work this winter to be able to survive in this group. Now, the last couple weeks for my training has been pretty awful with vacation, and I think I really should have paid more attention to the trainer road calendar coinciding with the calendar of this race, because this is really my peak week. But I didn't do that. So I sat on that cafe and I thought to myself, hey, self, you could make some other choices. So instead of drinking beer, which I don't do a ton of, but enough to matter, you could not drink beer. You could try to lose a little bit more weight, which is a common thing for me to say to myself all the time. All the time. And you could train a little bit more. So you could wake up earlier. There's no reason that I have to sleep in quite as much as I do. I can wake up earlier. I could train a little bit more. I could get in a few extra hours. The two-a-days I found last year, I didn't have a great training program, but there was a month or so where I did two-a-days for, I wouldn't say the whole month, but for at least a couple weeks. Those made a huge difference. So spinning in the morning, not trying to do anything major, but spinning in the morning and then coming out in the afternoon and doing your intervals. Last year I did those. That was really beneficial. This year I have not done that, and yeah, maybe I can feel a difference. But overall, I would say as far as my legs were concerned in this race, they were definitely sore to start, but then they warmed up and I felt pretty good. My heart rate, you can see, is I guess that is pretty high for me, 161. If you've been watching the channel, you know that's pretty high for me. I think it says 161. It's kind of hard for me to read it right now. And so, hard to complain about that. Trying to adjust the screen so I can see. Oh, 151. Got it. Yeah. So, Anyway, whining, moaning. This is what happened. It's unfortunate, but that's what happened. And I think after the race, I was talking to Brent. I said, when a field gets shredded like this, it's either there's some of the field doesn't have the fitness to stay, and when it's raining like this, some of the field doesn't have the courage to take the turns at the speed necessary or be in the group to stay. Either way, it's the same result. And then there's some people that don't have the fitness or the courage, and they get popped pretty quick. But either way, you're dealing with twice as many people getting popped as you probably normally would in a break or in a race. So there were 63 starters and only 18 people finished in truly the lead group. So yeah, that'll happen. I did not make that selection. And that's life. All right, so now this is where I got pulled, and yes, I appreciate that guy. A lot of other people got pulled too throughout the race, and now I'm going to switch over to Brent's camera. Oh, and just like that, I am highly competitive. No, I'm really my friend Brent. All right, so the power, again, does not totally match up with what's going on. We are picking up this race with only, was it like 18 minutes to go, so I skipped a few minutes in there to move over to Brent's camera, which is fine. I was spectating the race, and at least from where I was on the race, didn't notice anything too spectacular throughout there. There's no move up the road. And I really thought this is definitely a breakaway type of course, but I think everyone was just I don't know what the rain did to prevent a breakaway. That's kind of an interesting thought. It seemed like it would have been a good day for a breakaway with rain or slick corners. At least at this point, you can see the course is drying out and the rain has stopped. Yeah. So this is a fast group that Brent is with, and the other teammate Andy is in this group as well. There's Andy right in front of Brent right now, or a little bit over to the right, 2 riders up. And yeah, so we're just going to be on board with Brent's bike. If you recall, Brent was doing the Pro 1-2 race for the first 2 nights, took a pretty nasty crash, and then decided to come race with us in the 2-3s, which is great. It's nice to have him. It's a huge amount of horsepower to potentially help Andy win the overall and just give us a few more arrows in our quiver to try to get a win for the week. And Andy got second yesterday, which is pretty fantastic. But Brent has all the tools necessary to win a race. So does Andy. So we'll see what happens as the week continues. Hopefully, not sure if Brent's going to continue to do the 2-3s all week, but we'll find out. The cliffhanger continues. All right, so I think there's a little move coming up here that is an interesting moment in the race. If I didn't watch this whole bit, but I think I previewed little tiny sections. So you can see this lead group is going to catch this. There seems like there's a group up there, or there's a group forming off the front. I'm not totally sure which is which. I think that is a group forming off the front, and then the field here is deciding what they want to do about that. And there is some activity to close this gap that has formed between the lead group. And again, the power overlays are not quite lined up, and I don't know which direction they're supposed to go, but they're not quite lined up. So I think this is the LAPT rider that's doing really well in the series as well. The eventual winner of this race, I was standing next to his mother. His name is Sam Janish. I have not spoken with Sam, but in speaking with his mom, seems like he comes from good peoples. So that was nice to chat with her. Sam has picked up cycling about 2 years ago, and she had some questions about how cycling works, and she's hosting a bunch of racers from the East Coast, so really cool to watch a family totally get into cycling. Not sure if his other members of his family are into it. So this is the move. Brent sees that group up the front, or up the road, and Brent's going to go shut this down. Brent does not have a rear camera, so apologize for that. And obviously this wattage is way off because Brent is absolutely cooking to catch this group. That's a huge gap. I got to say that gap's got to be at least 8 seconds before he took off. I bet somewhere in that neighborhood. Which doesn't sound like a ton, but it's a ton. And they're going up this straightaway pretty hard. I don't recall, I was spectating, but I don't recall if that was a preem. I think it was. I think there was a preem. that caused that separation, because there was a sprint and then a couple of guys that were not caring much about the preem, but they used that as a springboard to move up the road. And I think this rider that's 2 up from Brent right now is the guy that won a couple of preems. Big ol' sprint on that cat. So that's impressive that he was able to, if this was the preem that I'm thinking of, he was able to put in a huge sprint and then stick with this group that's clearly working. So again, apologize for the power overlays. Absolutely not accurate right now. That's so frustrating. All right, eventually this move does get caught. I'm just curious to see how well they work together or don't work together. It looks like don't work together is the... It seems like they're one-man efforts, and there's not like a concerted pace line sort of effort. Not that I would expect it to be established super quickly in a move like this, but there's definitely no cohesiveness to this movement. It's just sort of individuals putting in a ton of work, but not necessarily concerted work. So like a good example of that, when that person who's on the front right now creates a little bit of, pulls through too hard, basically, is really what it amounts to, that everyone else has to close that gap. And so it just gaps and gaps and close, gaps and close, gaps and close. And that takes a lot of energy out of the riders that are up the road with you. I mean, it's a heroic pull, but I feel like, not being a very experienced brake rider, so keep that in mind, I feel like a little less aggression in that pull could have led to someone else being able to pull through and then had ultimately a faster go round. But I'm guessing, based on the slowdown here, that everyone... Oh, yep, I was right. There's everyone else. So maybe there was not much of a gap to worry about. So, all right, so back with Brent. I think we got about 10 more minutes in this race. So, yeah, I don't think we're going to take a music break today, because it's kind of neat to be up front with this fast of a group. Now, that's the race leader. That's 2 riders up. He's wearing that blue and white spotted cow jersey provided by the organizers. Apologize, do not have his name or where he's from. I think he's part of a Trek team from Minneapolis area, so about 4 or 5 hours away from Milwaukee, where we're racing now. If I'm accurate, that's where his team is from. I think he had 2 other riders that were with him on his team, but they both got pulled. I remember watching them get pulled from this race as well. So just for a fun fact, my tire pressure, I'm running tubeless tires on Bontrager rims. I totally dislike those Bontrager rims in wet conditions. I wish I would have switched to my aluminum rims, but I didn't. And I've had carbon rims in the past by other manufacturers, and was not nearly as scared as these older Bontragers make me. So, yeah, that sucks. So anyway, my tire pressure I put at, I think it was 78 in the rear and 75 in the front. In retrospect, that probably should have been about 65 and 68. I think I was 10 over, and that would have been a huge confidence boost to have a little bit more grip when you're dealing with that wet in the beginning. Now, that certainly, may have cost me 1 or 2 watts in the end, but it pales in comparison to how slow I was going around those turns, because I was scared and puckered up pretty good. So, yeah. So I try to think, like, would I have done something differently if this was the category that I care about, the 40 plus 1, 2, 3? Would I have been more brave at the front? I don't know. I really don't. I like having all my bones connected inside my body. So racing in the rain is not something I've ever been scared of before. So maybe today was actually the first day I was nervous about it, but I think a lot of it had to do with those rims, to be honest with you, because I've never been scared to race in the rain before, and I definitely was today. All right, so still with Brent, and spectating on Brent, I can tell you that when he would pass through the group, he was very calm, extremely calm, except it did take him a lap or two to recover from that gap closing. But then after that, he was happy to sit at the back and just totally relax. So his face was not stressed. His mouth wasn't even open. He's just very relaxed. So he forgot his heart rate strap today, so you don't get to see his beats per minute. But Brent is similar in height, weight, and bike size and all that stuff to me. So he is significantly faster than me, but we're fairly similar in those basic measurements. He's much more lean than me. I think he's a little bit taller than me. And he is, did I mention he's faster than me? Because he is. All right. And he's got a devastating sprint that I've seen develop over the past few years, which has been fun. So I used to be able to hang with him without too many problems, but those days might be past me. Oh well. All right, so this, there's not too many moments in this race where this front group slowed down, at least on the front stretch. I was watching right at the start-finish line. Not too many moments where this group slowed down. So this has got to be under 10 laps. I forgot to look at the lap counter, but this has got to be pretty low on the laps, just based on how many minutes are left in this race. So I think things are going to get pretty hot pretty soon. So the race winner, I didn't go through that story. I think it was with like 5 laps to go. There was a preem, and somebody went up and took the preem. Oh man, my recollection on this is really poor, but I'm just going to make up this story, and someone can correct me if they remember it differently or if reality was different. I think there was a preem with like 5 to go, and somebody sprinted for that, got it, but then Sam was with them, the eventual race winner. So then Sam was solo and putting in a massive effort and was able to unbelievably stick that effort. So when he was off the front, I know he's really strong. He's really strong. But when he was off the front, I thought, I'm standing next to his mom, and I don't want to say anything to her, but I'm like, there's no way he's going to win this race. Oh, well, I was wrong. There was a way, and he did it. So kudos to him. Super impressive ride. I mean, it's a lot of mental fortitude for anyone, certainly a young man, to jump off the front. I think she said that he's only been riding a bike for 2 years. So his ability to just stick this, he had about an 8-second gap at most, maybe 10 at the most. And the group flirted with catching him. They mushroomed out because they thought they had him, but he just kept digging. He didn't do any turning around. I didn't see his head swivel around once. He was just digging in and full commit. It was really, really impressive. And then I think, if I recall correctly, Brent is probably going to go up here shortly when that move happens, and he's going to do his best to close that down so that Andy, our teammate, can be in a much better position to either bridge up to that point or launch a counterattack. I guess launch a counterattack would be the proper tactic to do after that, or sit in and get ready for a sprint knowing that your teammate spent himself to pull back the solo break. Either way, it was fine. So Andy ended up tucking in for the sprint, and I think he got 8th place today with Sam off the front. Sam had, by the time the leaders came through, Sam was ahead by like a 3-second gap or 2-second gap, something like that. It wasn't much, but it was enough to get a win, so awesome for him. And then there was a pretty good rally for the sprint. There was a rider whose name I do not know got 2nd, and then I think Ralph is listed as getting 3rd, although as I was watching it on the side, I thought Ralph got 2nd, but I guess I was wrong. And then everybody else plowed through. So the race, or the series leader in the cow print jersey, not sure how he did today, actually. So I think this is where Sam has moved off the front. Yep, he just went around that turn. And then I think Brent is going to move up here shortly and try to put an end to that. Oh, actually, it's the guy right ahead of Brent on a team called Volgas, Volgas. Really cool team name, whoever came up with that, by the way. Because it sounds like full gas, but it's Volgas. Get what they did there? Pretty cool. Anyway, I like the team name. And their kits look really slick, and they're a really strong team. All right, so Volgas guy is going to go. Brent is going to follow, and eventually, I think it's probably the next lap, Volgas guy pulls hard enough to gap I wouldn't say Brent. I don't know what happened. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So, yep, I guess Brent let him get off the front a little bit. And, or closes. Well, what's going to happen? All right, closes. Now I don't know if Brent's going to come around now and try to pull Sam back because Volgas guy's got to be getting pretty tired. I don't know if Volgas guy has a teammate here that he's working for. He must have somebody he's working for because that is a lot of work. That's a lot of work if you don't have a teammate. And I'm not sure why you would do that if you're by yourself. And dealing with lap traffic, that's annoying. At least I think that's lap traffic. Maybe not lap traffic. Yes, lap traffic. Oh, that cost him a lot. That's the difference maker right there. That was the difference maker. Yep. That's interesting. That left rider, not that it's his fault or anything, but probably could have gotten out of the way a little better than he did. But that is a heck of a pull by this Volgas guy. Holy smokes, is that a big pull. So I just saw Brent's power pop up to 1200. I bet we're going to see, I don't know, at some point. I guess the power's just way off, so who knows. Goodness gracious, that's a monster pull by this guy. Hats off. Okay, now Brent's going to come around. And Brent's going to, I think, right? Brent's going to put a move in to try to pull Sam back. Again, as a reminder, there's one race leader up the road. And I think there's a couple, if you see more riders up there, I think that's lap traffic as well. They did pull a ton of people, but I guess they left a couple. Yeah. I wish the power was right, because Brent's putting in a heck of a move here. And I'm quite sure that other people are behind him. But there can't be more than 2 laps left. Or this has got to be 2 laps to go. This is not the last lap. Yeah, lap traffic. So Sam is so far up I can't see him right now. That's interesting. I didn't think he ever had that big of a gap. Oh, there he is. All right. And oh, is that the Volgas guy going again? I wonder if that's a teammate of the Volgas guy. Holy cow, he must work out. All right, so now this would have been the time, right, where Andy, the teammate of Brent's, would have tucked in for the sprint and hoped other teams would close this gap, which is what he did, which is probably the right move because I still don't even see Sam. So the potential to bridge up to Sam at this point would have been difficult, and trying to bridge and then go past Sam would have been difficult at best. So I don't know if this is one to go or 2 to go. Sorry, I do not know. I do know that lap traffic cost that Volgas guy quite a number of seconds, and I think that would have been potentially enough for Brent to be more motivated to pull Sam back, because they would have had another 5 or 6 seconds up the road. That would have been a difference maker. Okay, well, Brent's going again. Maybe my timing was way off. Oh, that's the Volgas guy again, off the front. And now Brent's going to go catch him. And the question, will Brent keep going to try to catch Sam? There's Sam turning the corner. Now it's all coming into focus. Okay, sorry for the confusion. Volgas guy, super impressive. Yep, all right. So Brent's, whew, that looks hard. Race leader, or series leader, I should say, coming through. And reports are that perhaps our friend here is feeling the effects of 4 days of racing. So I'm not quite sure he's got the same snap that he had in the previous. I mean, no knock, he's a beast, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to close this down because he's pretty gassed from the week. Although Sam's been doing the same week, and Sam's still up there too, so good for Sam. Sam is just, see, what I was saying, just full commit to this move, man. Impressive. So they're within striking distance of Sam right here. They're only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds back, which is plenty. But all right, Brent's going to go again. And so maybe this would have been the opportunity. So again, Andy was faced with two choices at this point. Either shoot off after Brent got him as close as possible. I don't think that's the right decision. I think Andy made the right decision to stay with the group. Just based on how many people are in the group, there were still like 15 guys in this lead group, so it's hard to believe that 15 guys are going to let the race or this win slip by them by 5 or 6 seconds up the road. You would think that some of those folks would come through with either a team, well, there you go, with a teammate, or somebody's just going to power through there. So there goes Andy, our other teammate up at that group. Brent's pretty gassed at this point, obviously, but I think he's going to slot in to the back of this group. And you can see, like I was saying, there's just so many. There's the second. Is that the same Volgas guy? Man, I can't tell if there's 2 Volgas guys or 1 Volgas guy. I don't know the answer. All right, so yeah, there's a lot of guys there, right? So you would think like there's no way that Sam's going to hold on to 5 seconds with this many guys, with the race win right at their fingertips in the last lap. Things get really hot, so you would think that's not going to happen, but Sam did not think that. Sam thought he was going to win, and gosh darn it, he was right. So I don't know at the moment. I don't recall who pulled up this group toward the finish. I don't know if there was team lead out from perhaps the black and yellow team Velocause, because they are pulling for, well, they wouldn't pull it. So Sam, who won, is a Velocause rider, and then Ralph, who got third, is a Velocause rider. So I'm not sure what they did in this finish here with Ralph. I have no idea. That'd be interesting to ask them or see the footage from the start-finish line, which I have. So I'm going to switch to the final sprint on my GoPro because I was on the sidelines taking footy. So let's switch to that real quick. That'll only take a second. And
Let's bring him in, Waukesha. Sam Janet going solo and taking the win. And Insect is going to sprint to the second spot. And third will go to Velocause.
all right, that was the sprint. Here's Sam in his victory pose. Great post up. Well done, young man. Good ride. Holy cow. Now, second place I can see in the slow-mo is the person who won those preems with monster sprints and then another monster sprint. So, wow, super impressive. Race leader got 4th. Here comes my teammate, Andy Webb. Boop, boop. Just like that. All right, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching Brian Davis Races. I really do appreciate it. If you get the chance, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel, because putting these videos together takes a bit of work, and knowing that other people watch them and appreciate them means the world to me. So please do subscribe, hit the little bell icon to be notified when I put out new content, and go race your bike. All right, talk to you soon. Bye.